Here is the Audi e-Tron Sportback 55 Quattro. It's supposed to do about 200 miles. We had a little bit of trouble charging it last night on the way up to Shrewsbury from the south coast. And now we're going on to North Wales. We had to leave it on charge overnight and we're not really sure if it's charged or not. So let's go and see. And to my great relief, we have 207 miles on the clock. So we're going to take this on a long-range test now to see how many miles we can get out of it. And we're going to show you what e-foiling is. The Audi e-Tron Sportback 55 Quattro. Now that's quite a mouthful, and it's taken me quite a long time to remember it. So what I'm going to do is explain each part. e-Tron, of course, is Audi's electric vehicle range. This is the second of those, actually named the Sportback, so called because of the lovely sweeping rear end it has. Quattro means it's all-wheel drive, but does it? There are two motors in this car, yes, in the front and the rear, and they do power all the wheels when they need to. But actually, for most of the time, this car runs rear-wheel drive only, unless you put the throttle down and it needs it, and you're losing traction at the back. 55 in this name is an interesting one. It actually means that this model has a 95 kilowatt hour battery. That is something that we're going to focus on because it has everything to do with the amount of range that the car can put out. Now, Audi claims that this car can do over 240 miles in just one charge. And that's exactly what we're putting to the test here. Can this Audi do the journey that your normal internal combustion engine car can do? And more importantly, can it do that journey better than its rivals, the Jaguar I-Pace and the Tesla Model X? Now, as you step in this car, it's typically Audi. It's lathered with leather everywhere, and it's actually a very, very nice place to be. The cabin is absolutely beautiful. But you kind of expect that in an Audi. It's kind of the one thing you'd think they would get right. And to their credit, they really have put the effort in here, and it really shows. It is a very quiet, serene environment, and it's actually great for this long-term journey. Long journeys on the motorway are actually quite pleasant because it's really quiet and the soft ride from the air suspension is really, really, really great. But as soon as you take it off the motorway like we are now, you go around corners and you realise quite how top heavy the car actually is. And yeah, you would think that it's called Sportback. It would be slightly sportier than a normal, regular crossover SUV. But I just don't think it's nimble enough for what it suggests. Beyond that, and to make things slightly worse, and actually this is a little thing that people that know Audis will understand, is that the steering feeling is actually quite weak. It doesn't really give you what you need, and that top heaviness kind of makes it worse. You kind of don't really know what angle you need to be turning into, and the road makes it quite difficult. You have to second guess yourself. Vorsprung durch Technik. It means progress through technology. And on this car, that technology couldn't be more obvious. You're absolutely surrounded by gadgets, gizmos, cameras and sensors. And for the most part, that's a good thing. But you have two screens that you wouldn't actually expect to be in a car. They actually replace the wing mirrors. You find them in the door here, right just above the door handle, which means when you look out to your mirror, which actually isn't a mirror, it's a camera, it's a bit confusing. It's certainly something you have to wrap your head around when you drive this car. I just don't think that that placement has been particularly well thought through. In the Honda E, for example, it has it up here where the air vents are, so you almost constantly have it in your view. Another thing, why do the cameras need to stick out like antenna? On the Honda E, again, you had nice little pods on the outside, nice and tidy. That said though, There are some nice features on this car, like for example the brake regeneration here. When I'm going down a nice slope like this, I can just click once or twice and get levels of brake regeneration that will bring back some of the power. We'll charge that battery and give you a little bit of extra range. But then again, we get back to this problem, the range. Earlier in the trip, we actually had to switch off all of the climate control just to get another 10 miles. That's the thing, you're actually getting rid of some of the luxuries just to get the range you need to get to where you want to go. Okay, it's a 300-mile journey that we're trying right now, but this is an 80 grand car. That's enough money that you'd spend on your only car. There are very few people that can spend 80 grand on a second car, so really that range is a real problem. The 400-mile journey from the south coast of England to Anglesey in the north of Wales was a long one, and often quite frustrating. Needless to say, our old friend range anxiety came to visit and ruined our weekend. Simply put, the Audi e-Tron Sportback does not have the real-world range you need for an electric vehicle outside the city. And that's just not something I expected from an £80,000 Audi electric vehicle, especially considering its age-old rival, the Tesla Model X, could have managed this trip with ease. As lovely as the cabin is, and technologically advanced as the gadgets in the Sportback are, Audi really need to get that range right. It's not all bad though. We did manage to cram a 6-foot electric surfboard into the boot, and brought it with us. Now it's time to give it a go.